So as Donald Trump and Elon Musk are set to take the White House, the question is, who else is buying Donald Trump? That's the subject of today's video. And you guys know Musk is buying Trump, but there's other people out there as well. Check out this headline. These are the top bets for Trump's inauguration, including whether he'll say McDonald's or Dogecoin. So I guess these days we're watching to see whatever Donald Trump's going to pump, and then we all buy said stock. And so like, for all we know, Donald Trump will come out and he'll, wear Nikes, just for example, whatever, or wear a big logo on his tie for whatever company. And we're already seeing these kind of things. So I'll give you an example. This is just 15 hours ago. Elon Musk tweets out, "The inventor of Diet Coke is genius." And there's Trump there, right? Hanging out with the CEO of Coca-Cola. And it says here, breaking, Donald Trump just received the first ever presidential commemorative inaugural Diet Coke from the CEO of Coca-Cola. So you're seeing this, right? You're seeing companies come in, give Trump a whole bunch of money. This is pay to play. That's what this game is all about. And we've seen this, sort of advertising before. There's 5 of them there: Musk, Trump, Don Jr., RFK, who's supposed to be against fast food, and is that Mike Johnson? And Donnie Jr. holding up the McDonald's logo. I mean, I'll let you guys decide if you want politicians to be bought up by companies in this kind of way. It's just, it's obvious what's going on here, right? Not only do you have Trump meeting with the Coke CEO, you also got Elon Musk tweeting out that he drinks a bunch of Diet Coke, so I guess he loves this stuff. That's on January 10th, 2025, and Musk says, "I have a drinking problem." Let me refer to Musk, though. I guess he's a longtime fan of Diet Coke. There's Diet Coke and guns by his bed. He says, "My bedside table," on November 28, 2022. Now, why should we care about whether or not companies are buying off politicians? Is because they get preferential treatment. They get special favors, right? They can get out of legal entanglements. So example, we just talked about yesterday where the SEC is suing Elon Musk, but hey, if you buy off the right people, maybe there's no penalty for you. So laws will be different. And I'll let you guys decide if you want laws to be different for rich people and not rich people. I myself think that's unfair, and I think justice should be blind. That's just my opinion on that stuff. But obviously the Trump people and stuff like that feel differently. They're more like, hey, give me a bunch of money and laws can change for you. Now, if you don't know this lawsuit, the basic gist of it is that Musk was buying up Twitter, and when you buy up a company and your ownership gets over 5%, you have to disclose that to the SEC, which Musk did not. I think they were 11 days late when they did. And basically, you can suppress the price, right? Meaning that once you announce that you're buying up the stock, then suddenly everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's the best meme stock. It's going to go to the moon." And if you want to, continue to buy it, it's going to be a higher price. So whether or not he faces any penalty for not disclosing, I would say probably not, because you're buying off the government, and they're going to change the head of the SEC. So there's that. That's why these people, pay to play, right? That's why companies do this kind of stuff, or individuals. You could make that case. Or in the situation of Tesla, if you don't want to report crash data of your cars that don't work, just buy off the government, right? That's the plan. So I just want you to understand, like, this sort of culture of cronyism or corruption or oligarchy isn't designed to help you, the consumer, or you, the just average Joe investor. It's to help the big people basically cheat you. That's what this game is played. On top of that, Musk is wielding a lot more power than we realize, because this was just reported today. I guess he's doing prisoner swaps now. This is the headline. Musk said to have intervened to help free Italian jailed in Iran, right? So he's getting involved with Italians jailed in Iran. And then I guess he has some sort of relationship, this is Musk, with the Iranian ambassadors. And then on the Iranian side, I guess they released an engineer that did some sort of drone thing that killed Americans. So this is what it is. I'll read the details. It says, last week, the journalist Cecil Asala, 29, was released from prison in Iran. Okay. And days later, an Iranian engineer whom Italy had detained on an American extradition request was also freed. The engineer was accused of providing material for drones used in an Iranian-backed militia attack on the U.S. military base that killed 3 American servicemen. Right. So again, Musk is negotiating a prisoner swap, release an Italian journalist, and then on the other side, release Iranian engineer that was part of this drone attack on Americans. There were 3 Americans died. And I don't want to make any lie of that. I mean, Americans died, right? And you have Musk negotiating said thing, this unelected person. I don't know how you want to call this thing. So there's that. And what's the angle for Musk in that? I don't know. You have to ask Musk. But we also know that Musk was involved with recently he did a deal in Italy for getting like $1 billion for his Starlink. I don't know what deal he has in place for Iran to have friendships there or whatever. I don't know. Ask Musk. I'm just telling you what's going on, and there's that. What else can I say? I'm just telling you guys with the news. We know Zuckerberg's going to be at the inauguration, right? So that's the Facebook dude. We know Bezos is going to be there. Timmy Cook's going to be there, right? Inauguration, he's giving $1 million. A bunch of companies are being there. And from the Republican point of view, or the Trumpies, they'll say, but Chris, we're opening up business. Business is going to be, awesome. And the way I look at it is like, well, I mean, it depends if you believe in this trickle down stuff, and it depends if you want companies to not have to report or disclose, crash or dangerous things about their products. It's up to you. I disagree with you, of course, because I prefer to have I guess I'm naive, a system with less corruption, but so there's that. I guess Hyundai, Stellantis, Delta, they're all giving money to Trump. I don't know if Boeing is. I haven't read anything about that. I was just thinking about that, like what other companies out there would try to need to get the government off their back. And I think Boeing would be probably one of the big ones that would want to do that. I'm sure a bunch of AI stuff. It's a hot ticket when you know that the government's for sale, right? Everyone wants a piece. And this is the kind of stuff the government does that I consider to be good for Americans, but this stuff could go away if whatever companies like a Coca-Cola or whatever come in and buy everything. So for example, it says FDA bans artificial dye red 3 from food, right? The idea was like, hey, are there additives in food? And this example, dye that may be unhealthy for people, which I think is important for consumers to be protected. Like if, companies, food companies aren't disclosing, all the ingredients in said thing, or for example, if there's and you guys know this, was talking about eggs, because my wife and I, we always talk about this. It's a funny one. When you go buy eggs and it'll say like, are they cage free, or are they, free roaming, or are they grass fed or whatever? Like the FDA would enforce, how do we define these kind of words? How do we define what it means to be low fat, or how do we define healthy? It depends if you believe in, fair advertising or not. Musk and his buddies would say, no, false advertising is free speech. I can claim that, my chickens are the freest chickens in the whole world, and, whatever. And then you go and look at their factory and it's like, no, they're not. Or, Musk can claim, hey, my cars can drive, to the moon, and you're like, go look at the cars. No, they can't. So again, I think these sort of systems are in place to protect the consumer. But it depends, again, in your point of view, if you believe that remove all these regulations so companies can say whatever they want, falsely advertise, and you hope that they'll trickle down the profits to you. So that's the hope of the Republican MAGA, is that they'll trickle down. This is an interesting one too. Is the Trump and RFK? What are they going to do with this guy? And it seems that there are some divisions there, and it's possible that RFK is a thorn in their side if companies are coming in to buy off the Trumps, right? So they may boot this. They may give this guy the boot. I have a feeling, but we'll see. I just was thinking about that. An example of things that Trump has done in the past, if you understand these things. I remember he was promoting Lordstown Motor, if you guys remember this. And I know a lot of people forget this stuff. I never forget this one, because the Lordstown Motor CEO, he went on TV and he just came across like a complete moron. But basically the company went bankrupt, and Trump promised everyone's it's going to be an awesome company. You're all going to have jobs. Of course, it was a lie. And it was a scam. And on top of that, you're going to have more of this kind of stuff. Robinhood, they're going to get more favorable treatment on, the dealing that they have, passing, whatever products on to consumers if they want to cheat people in whatever way, right? All that stuff will go away. I also tell you the truth on this stuff. When it comes to the markets, if you're invested in said company, you're like, yeah, definitely do that corruption and stuff like that. It depends on what side of the game you are on this thing. And I always say the same thing. You're going to have your worker hat, which you want to make as much money as you can. And you want to be on the ownership side. And unfortunately, that's just the way that the game is played. It's hard to get ahead, and if you're not on the ownership side. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to invest in, corrupt companies. You don't have to. Though there will be some benefits for some. As you can see, Tesla stock is soaring. But if it's all based on corruption and false promises, and the fundamentals aren't there, meaning the companies aren't making that much money, it only lasts for so long. So I'd be very cautious on that. So, generally speaking, you're best off investing in an index fund. So, just get everything in the market. And you don't have to stress out about, is there corruption, not corruption? Because a lot of these things can be built on a house of cards. So be very, very careful out there. Now we got to talk about inflation, which everyone's worried about with the Trump situation. On top of that, we have the wildfires in California, which I don't think they're over. I saw that Gavin Newsom tweet out that some of the stuff is contained, but then I'm seeing also here that I guess the weather is still bad. So who knows? And this also goes to, what is Trump's policy on climate change? Are they going to take that stuff seriously or not? I think this affects everyone, regardless if you believe in science or not. Science happens, right? Nature happens. And I want to show you guys is a simple example. So this is an interesting chart from 1980 to 2024. So it shows, I'll read the headline. It shows the United States billion-dollar disaster events from 1980 to 2024. And you can basically see like it's clearly going up. And this is not, you don't want more disasters, right? I mean, you guys can clearly see it here. So severe storms is the green there. So that seems to be the biggest. Then you got tropical cyclone count. So, obviously something is up here. This is just data. And, you want an administration, in my opinion, that addresses climate change in a way that, protects people. So that's my point of view on this stuff. So be careful out there, regardless of what the Trumpers say, if they deny science or not. These are just data, again, of all the different problems that we may have. And you'll see it. We're getting more. I mean, literally, you can see on the chart, more disaster events, and I call it climate change. Or you want to call it global warming. You can call that as well. On top of that, we're going to have to deal with inflation and Trump. Everyone's predicting essentially, if Trump, implements his policies that he says he's going to do, be the tariffs or deport illegal immigrants, these kind of things, or have trade wars, it'll all basically be more inflation for regular people, or for everyone, but it'll hurt regular people the most. Where inflation is right now, core 3.2, overall 2.9, so around 3, something like that. It's not to where the Fed wanted. They said, hey, we're going to get the 2% inflation and then we're going to be golden, but it's just not going there. And then Trump's policy is going to be inflationary. So that's what we're watching. This is a kind of interesting one though. Some people have gotten pay raises. Whether or not it's kept up with inflation, probably not. Now, everything's going to depend on your neck of the woods. So I'm showing you the chart, but I'll just say everything depends on your neck of the woods. Under Trump, with the tariffs, I think it's like 10% tariffs is what he's saying across the board. And then there may be more or less depending on the countries. There was one prediction by JP Morgan that your prices will go up by like 0.5%. The bond market's also freaking out as well. Essentially, people are worried about borrowing costs, right? Is Trump going to, continue deficit spending? Are they going to issue a bunch of debt to try to keep the government going so they can give tax breaks for the rich? And, remember the company's also trying to buy favor. But this isn't just the USA that's having trouble with the deficit spending, need to borrow more. Many countries out there are doing that. So if I had to bet, I think borrowing costs will probably go up. If I had to bet, that's according to the bond market. On top of that, people are worried about the valuations in the stock market where the tech companies are overvalued. So this is kind of an interesting headline. Investors pour billions into S&P equal weight fund as tech fear rise. So if you want to buy an index fund, but not necessarily go overweight on tech, you can get this. I've also mentioned before, you can get a balanced fund, which will, put in stocks and bonds together. So you can be balanced, so not necessarily overweight stocks, which if stocks hit, say 5%, then suddenly it's like, God, do I want to take, risk in the market or take that, guaranteed 5%? And this is sort of the levels we're watching. Someone was mentioning too, if bonds are closer to the 4 range, then that would be good for the markets. But it's really, really volatile because Trump could say one thing, one day, and another thing another day, and you don't know what he's planning to do. One thing that they've mentioned though several times, and this is kind of an interesting one, that they're going to have a bunch of new ETFs for crypto. So if you're all about crypto, right, Trump's your guy. And if you ask Wall Street, they'll say, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to have, more crypto. Everything's going to be awesome under Trump. If you ask the current, people say the SEC, they'll just say, we don't have any comment on that, right? So, from the SEC's perspective now, you'd want to protect the consumer, right? But from the Trump's people and the Wall Street people, they're like, oh, well, it's all about innovation and gambling. Let's go make that money. So be very, very careful out there, guys. Just want to give you some caution. And even the Fed has a sense of humor about it. So this would be Goolsbee. And I'll read some of the stuff he has to say. It's actually pretty interesting. These guys have a pretty funny sense of humor. Well, depending if you find economic humor fun. So this is from Goolsbee. He says, quote, "The biggest puzzle we've been facing for the last couple of years is the housing inflation has been dramatically higher than it was pre-COVID. But we've been making steady progress now for the several months on housing inflation. So those parts are encouraging. And you guys know this, affordable housing is a big deal. It's a big part of inflation. Unfortunately, though, the Fed can't, they can't control everything regarding that. And they even say that too. They says here from Goolsbee, the Fed really has only one tool. We can tighten the interest rate or loosen the interest rate. It's basically a screwdriver. And if what happens is in the handle of the dishwasher is loose, then our tools are great for that. If what you need is to make breakfast, our tools aren't great for that." And he went on to talk about like a Midwestern motto to where there isn't necessarily good weather or bad weather. There's good clothing or bad clothing, meaning that, be prepared on whatever happens and wear the appropriate, gear. So I think that's good advice. And want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Trump being bought off by several companies? Which companies do you think are going to probably put in more money and stand to benefit the most? Or another way to put it would be, which companies need the biggest bailout for Trump, and which one would Trump most likely help? So I think we already know about Tesla, but there'll be others out there, and we'll be watching the news together. I do appreciate your time, everyone. Please be safe, and I'll catch you next video.